Hey, what's up? Welcome to the next episode of Supadupa. Um, and this is I guess gonna be the format if I don't have anybody to interview. I'm gonna get on here and at least kind of talk to you guys a little bit. This is kind of what it started off being. The whole idea was of doing a channel that was more like podcast, commentary type stuff. And that's what I plan on doing here today. There's a lot of crazy things that have been happening lately. There's some music that dropped. There's the election. We talk about the election a little bit. But this was always like what my idea was of a channel that I would be on. It's just kind of like, me talking, doing things that were slightly different from what we ended up doing at the Ant Theory, which was reactions. And I started this channel off as reactions too, just because I thought I was going to be able to do that. And I don't think I've ever, outside of the live that I did, I never explained why reactions are either going to stop or maybe not be as much as they were. And, the reason why is it was getting in the way of me being a fan. And you guys might have heard this on the interview that I did, I think with J-Mac and Scott. I don't know if I mentioned it twice, but, doing reactions is very like time sensitive, right? It's like a song comes out, you want to react to it as soon as possible and drop the video. But in my situation, when it comes to like my living situation, I don't think that that's something that I'm able to do. I have 5 children. 4 of them live with me full time, and my wife's a stay-at-home mom. And that being said, being a father is like the most important thing that I have to do. So that's like the non-negotiable. I really like being active. That it's very important for me to be healthy so that I can be here a long time for my family. I want to see all these kids grow up. I want to see grandchildren and things like that. So that's also very important to me. And I really love doing this YouTube thing. The reaction was something I did not expect. It happened. We've made some great relationships with people that I want to continue that. And I wanted to continue that. But again, reactions being time sensitive, I know you guys were getting reactions that were, a video would drop and you wouldn't get it until like a month or two, a week later. And on this side of it, at this point, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of all these groups. I'm a fan of BTS, Blackpink, EXO, 17. I mean, I enjoy the music, right? So it's a little hard whenever there's much anticipation. You're a part of ARMY, and it's like, oh, hey, RM's dropping an album, Jin's dropping an album, Jimin's dropping an album. The guys are dropping an album, and you're like, oh man, I'm not going to have a chance to record until so many days after, and it's like, if I had to pick being a fan or reactor, I have to pick being a fan. I have to support the guys, and, being a part of ARMY, being a part of, XOLs, Blinks and all that, it's like, you want to enjoy it with the community, and if I had the time to react and same day and, drop the video, I would do that. I just don't have the ability to do that. So I figured, I want to continue doing YouTube. How can I continue doing it? And I would just say, just going back to the roots, which was a podcast type form of video. And so that's why we are where we're at. Now, I've dropped 2 interviews, one with J-Mac, one with Scott of the Ant Theory. If you haven't checked those out, go on the channel, check them out, listen to the guys. My goal in all these interviews is just to allow people to tell their stories. That's what I'm really hoping this channel becomes, is a way to tell stories, not just stories of, family members, friends, which I consider J-Mac and Scott being, but also of artists, lyricists, rappers, musicians. I want to know why they do what they do, how they got to doing what they're doing. And I want people to get to know these people on a more personal level. I want to give a platform for people to be able to tell their stories. And along with these interviews, along with these podcasts, what I hope on doing is dropping small little documentary style storytelling videos on different bands. And I have something in the works that's going to come out. I hope you guys like it. And, I really hope you guys continue to support me. The people that really like me for me, I hope you guys continue to support me. I know a lot of you guys just came here for the actual artist, which is fair. I'm not famous, right? I'm nowhere near it. I'm nowhere near as talented as the people that I reacted to. And it was no illusion of mine to ever think that you guys were here mostly for me. You were here mostly for the artists that you guys love. Me getting to know these artists alongside, I was gonna say alongside y'all, but y'all already knew them, but me getting to know your favorite bands and experiencing them has been an honor and a privilege. And you never know. I don't know if maybe reaction is something I could get back to if I'm able to have a successful channel where I can put more time into this, then you never know. I might just go back to that. But if not, I know that you guys were here for that. So, if you decide to not support the channel, I completely understand, but I hope that you guys can understand me that at this point, I want to be a fan along with you guys, versus just, being a reactor, especially when reacting gets in the way of that. So that's definitely, what I wanted to say. But as I'm realizing, I have to be a little bit more organized with getting people to interview, the date that I can interview them. And so, as I'm getting these things situated, there is one interview that I think that you guys are going to like. But before I have it set on camera, ready to react, I don't want to announce it. I'm just going to drop it and hopefully you guys like it. And if you guys have people that you want me to reach out to get interviews from, I would definitely love to do that as well. So if you guys do have something like that, please let me know, because I would love to get them on the show and react and interview them. And hopefully you guys can get to know them on a more personal basis. So leave in the comments anybody that you would want me to interview. That being said, there's been a lot of music that has dropped right lately. Rose, Jennie, Jin, XG, Baby Monster. They've all dropped music since the last time, and I know other people have too. But I've watched those videos, and I'm happy that now I get to just watch them. That's just a good experience. But I'm really loving the new songs. I'll start off with Jin's BTS. I really dig his vibe. It fits his personality so great. I think out of all the BTS members, he's the more, I don't even know how to say this, because I don't think classical is the right name, because I do feel like V's more classical in his style of music choice. But I feel like Jin is more like traditional pop, slightly more rock bass, like rock pop bass. But I just think it's like his voice and his personality, And so I think, was it Come Back to Me? Or Come Back Together. Come Back to Me, I think it's the name of the song. I really like it. I think it was dope. I think it's very much him. I like it, even though that style of music is not really my cup of tea, but I think it fits him perfectly. And what I mean by that is, like, I never really listened to that type of music, right? It wasn't something that really like attracted me or caught my attention. So, I have to be honest with that. But the fact that it, like, Jin's rendition of it, I really like it. I think it fits him very nice. And so I also watched the medley And so, and I actually feel like I think the album's already out, so I think I'm gonna need to go see it. But I watched the medley. The medley was dope. I'm very excited to listen to the album. I've been super busy lately though, so I haven't been able to sit down and watch it. Is it out? Let me see. Let's check it out. Let's see Spotify. I need it. So another thing is I deleted all my social media, Instagram, TikTok. The only thing I don't is YouTube. YouTube is because it's like my only source of entertainment. But I'm on like a dopamine fast. So I deleted all social media. So I'll Be There. That's the name of the song. So it's only a single. And the album is dropping in 5 days. Okay, so I know I didn't miss anything. I'll Be There. What did I say? Oh, I know why. So I'm working on a little documentary on a band called Sunset Roller Coaster, and I'm putting it together. And I was the lead singer plays the guitar on RM's "Come Back to Me," so that title was in my head when I was thinking of Jin's "I'll Be There." But "I'll Be There" was dope. And I really like Rosé's song. Rosé's, I think out of all of them that's dropped, Rosé, I don't know. I think it's just because it's been on my feed. They've really been pushing her song out, I think, with Bruno Mars. And I really like that because it had that Bruno Mars feel, of course. Don't you want me like I want you, baby? Don't you know that I need you now? That's very Bruno Mars-y, you know? So that I think that's just a thing. It's a little bit more catchy to me. But I really like Rosé's song. I really like the style. It's very like rock, which I think fits her voice. She has a very unique voice. And it teeters along the lines of like Shakira, Alanis Morissette, but not as extreme as that. Maybe like a few steps before you get there. With some of the texture in her voice and how she sings. But she also has a very like, maybe not as soft as like a Billie Eilish, but along that kind of same lines, you know? Somewhere in the middle of Billie Eilish and Shakira and Alanis Morissette is somewhere Rosé. Think if that's fair. And I just feel like this song really fits her voice, and it fits her style very well. Jennie's, I don't know, like it's hard for me to get into Jennie's single because I mean it's very geared towards girls, right? But like I don't know, like it's not my cup of tea, you know. Again, I just don't think I really like that song, the style and stuff like that. It's not to be negative. It's a good song. It's objectively good. Obviously, you put a talented young lady with very, very good producers and stuff like that. So I'm not shitting on the song. I'm just talking on like personal preference. The song is good on its face. It's just my style. Like me connecting with the song, I don't feel like I've connected with the songs as much as I connected with Jin's and Rosé's. The XG song that just came out. So there's two that came out. What was the name of the song? Let's see. I'll pull it up right now because there's two that came out. So I have to see. So Howling just came out a day ago, and I just saw that. But then there was another one that came out. If You Know, You Know, maybe? Maybe it's not If You Know, You Know. I don't know if I reacted to that already or something. I know Something Ain't Right I reacted to and I dropped. But I think is If You Know, You Know that I didn't react to. But I've watched If You Know, You Know, and what I enjoy about XG is it teeters between two lines. One, it's more of a like a drum based UK garage type sound. And the other one is very intense, heavy trap sounding beats with very hard choruses. And I really like the if you know type style of song. I think they're starting to release so much music though that like I'm understanding the XG sound. I kind of know what to expect. I think for a while you didn't know what to expect, so they were able to kind of land harder punches. Howl or Howling or whatever that song is called. I really liked the beat and everything, but it just seemed like a softer version of the one. What's the name of this song right here? Woke Up. It's like a softer version of that. What I really enjoyed about that video is the video itself, the visuals, the dragon, all that other stuff. That was pretty dope. Yeah, so those are just some of my thoughts on some of the music that's come out lately. XG is one of my favorite girl groups coming out of, Japan, / Korea, but mostly Japan. And so they're very exciting. It's just this last one that I just saw outside of the video. Again, the song is good. I also didn't listen to it on headphones, so I know that adds to the dramatics. But I just think Woke Up was such a crazy song that that this is that Howling or Howl was along the same lines, but it just didn't catch me as off guard because I had already watched Woke Up. I think that Woke Up is like probably their best song. It just went so hard, But yeah, those are my thoughts on the songs. I know if you guys care, because y'all know me from K-pop. That's just some of the stuff and maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just watch the videos and on my podcast I'll talk about them, so that way you guys can still kind of pop in and take a look at what I've been doing and stuff like that. So when it comes to current events though, as a lot of you guys know, or maybe you don't know, but if you're from America, the election just happened this last Tuesday. I'll probably drop this on Sunday. So on Tuesday, the elections just happened, and Donald Trump just won the presidency. And I'm going to stay away from any opinions on that because I don't want to be controversial on this channel. I'm not here to hurt anybody's feelings one way or the other. But I do wanted to talk about an idea that I had. I feel one of the things I feel like, I'm a millennial, right? So millennials are just starting to hit midlife. We got, was it Gen Z and Gen Alpha are the, two youngest generations, and then Gen X and boomers are older than me, right? But the generation boomers and older, I have experienced them in my life, and they used to do something that I kind of feeling we need to bring back. And that's like, they used to say, don't talk about politics, religion, or sex. And I'm starting to feel that that's a good idea. I think that that's something that maybe we should bring back because, I think that we should bring it back because I feel that putting your politics out there can be very dangerous, right? Because I think that we get into herd mentality type situations. And I think that's what we saw in this last election with Republicans and Democrats. It's like you had two herds clashing together. And, I guess for context, I consider myself an independent, right? And I do this strategically, right? And I think this is going to be the part of my argument. And I guess I'm going to let out the premise that I think that most people, if not all, should be independent. They should identify as independent. if you're going to have a two-party system, right? Because I've gone through all of it. So my parents are Mexican, right? I'm a first generation American. They came over here illegally. I was born. It didn't give them citizenship by me being born, but I was a citizen, and I was the first citizen in my immediate family, right? And so the reason why I feel that people should be independent is, again, it keeps the two-party system honest. And my mind goes all over the place. So I'm gonna try to say clear. I'm gonna try to say clear. When my parents came over here, right, they really didn't teach me. They really didn't teach me how to, like, politics, American politics. They didn't know it. They didn't know American politics. They didn't really tell me, like, this is why things are the way that they are, because they didn't go to school in America either, right? So I'm going to school through America, and I'm not really fully understanding the system around me. Like, why do I have to go to school? Like, why, if I don't go to school, are my parents going to be held accountable and might go to jail, you know, or pay a fine or something, right? Like, these things didn't make sense to me. Coming from not the US, and I live in Texas, so there's a lot of Hispanic people here. So it's not that I felt out of place. I never felt out of place. I just felt like I didn't understand the system that I was growing up in. So right around 17, 18, I started paying attention to politics. So I think, let's see, in 2008, there was an election. So in 2004, I graduated in 2006. So 2004, there was the Bush election, right? And then 2008 or 2009 was around the time that I was able to vote, and Obama came along. So, like, I've always just been prone to get really into politics. So I started getting into politics. I started really looking into the system, really, like, kind of looking into, like, politicians and just paying attention to what they said and what comes up. And now I'm 36 years old. So there's been a few elections that I've been a part of. And throughout all of this, I joined sales, right? And the reason I bring that up is because as I started working in sales, I get very into things. I get very fixated. So I started looking into, like, persuasion techniques, right? Like, how to make my job easier. I'm in sales. I need to try to convince people to buy things. Like, I didn't invent sales. Sales has been a thing for a long time. So I started looking into sales techniques, right? The art of persuasion, right? How to get people to see things one way, how to not be confrontational with people when you're trying to get them to see things your way. So, you know, then I got wrapped up into psychology, right? And because I then started to use a lot of these psychology tips and tricks to be able to sell, I started putting a lot of that stuff into practice. So I was able to not just identify what people were saying, but then I was able to put it into practice to benefit me, right? So I got a very very close look at how these manipulation tactics, for the lack of better terms, work, and I became very good at it, right? And so it's like I perform my own case study. So I didn't go to college, but it's like I learned about all these studies and what humans were prone to do, and then I tested them out on real subjects in sales, and I realized what worked and what didn't work, and you know, what people would be prone to do and not to do and stuff like that. Well, one of the things that I really used to my advantage was the human need to feel like part of a group. So I'll give you an example. I was part of, you know, a cell phone provider, one of the big three that's going on, or one of the big four at the time, right? And part of what we had to do was, like, sell accessories, sell features, do these things, right? So a simple trick that we used to do is, or that I used to do, right? Because I had to sell accessories. So one of the things that humans really like to do is be part of a herd. So whenever I would sell an accessory, I wouldn't tell somebody, hey, you should buy this. I'd be like, hey, look, while I go to the back and grab your phone, let me show you the accessories I have. I'd take them to the case, and I would pick the accessory that I would buy. So I would have bought one for my phone, right? So I'm using it. So I would go up to the accessory case and I'd be like, hey, look, this is my most popular case right here. It is great for protection and everybody's buying it right now. That's what I have here. This is also great for protection. These are more cosmetics. Of course, you're going to want to buy a screen protector. And then I have other accessories if you want to take a look at it. Take a look at these and I'll be right back. And nothing is 100%. But a lot of the time when I came back, they would pick the case that I had said was the most popular, right? People don't want to be a dummy. But if you tell them that most people are doing one thing, they're going to feel comfortable doing that thing because they're going to feel like I'm not the only dummy. Everybody's doing it. So I say that to say that I started to really get into that type of stuff because that was the type of work that I was in, right? And at the end of the day, I had to feed my family and I like performing. I like doing good at things. So I wanted to be very good at my job. To the point where I got to be one of the top sales people in the company. But then as I was doing these things, I got really good at it. And I got really good at getting people to do things that started to not make sense. And that's when I started to back off. Because one thing is when you're not hurting anybody, because at the end of the day, it's you do need a case on your phone. You're buying this very expensive phone. So you need to buy a case. Yes, I'm being a little manipulative with how I'm wording things. But at the end of the day, when that person would drop their phone, they would thank me because it was protected. So I felt like I was doing good. But, you start making money and you start wanting to do better and better and better. I started realizing that with all these little tactics that I built up, it was getting to the point where I was able to convince people to do things that maybe wasn't in their best interest, right? It's I was just trying to hit this goal. I was just trying to get this sale. And I got really good at doing that, at persuading people. And I had to take a look back at myself and say, hey, you have this power, let's just say, right? This power of persuasion. And you're getting really good at it and you're doing really good and you're getting financially compensated for it. But are you being a good person? And I had to be honest with myself, and I was, I'm not being a good person. I'm just doing this. So it got so easy that it got boring. And that's when I really started to question everything. And I had to take a step back from that because it's in arguments in my everyday life, I realized that I could use these things to manipulate people into doing things, and it became an ugly thing that I saw myself, that then I'm this is not the person I want to be. This is not the thing I want to do. I don't want to be manipulative. I don't want to be a bad person like that. I don't want to just convince people to do things and they don't know that I'm doing things to them. I'm saying certain things. I'm making them, that just wasn't ever I didn't want to do that. So I stopped. If I knew that a person really didn't benefit from something, I stopped pushing them to buy it. In my personal life, if I knew, it's if I had an argument with somebody, instead of really trying to persuade them with these tactics to do what I wanted, I really just tried to express how I saw what I saw and really try to get them to see it my way. And if they just didn't, based purely on the facts and me explaining why I saw things the way they did, then I would just kind of back off. It's you know what, it's okay to it's okay to agree to disagree, you know, like I'm not going to try to manipulate you into a certain thought or something. And so since I took that stand on principle, what I started realizing in politics, like I was able to identify all these like tactics that politicians use to manipulate us, right? When I was younger, I leaned more left. As I got older, I started to lean more right. But what I started realizing with age, it's not so much I use these terms left and right because that's just the best way that I can relay the message to you. But if you look at what left was back then and what right is now, like, it's not the same. To go back and say I was left before, it means the left of before means something today, and the right of today means something completely different, right? But no matter what, there wasn't anything that fully encompassed my idea of like what I believe and what I represent. So that's why I identify as an independent. And the reason why I'm saying that everybody else should identify as an independent is because when we start playing on teams, and I've played sports, I know what it's like to play on a team. And sometimes, you know, when you're losing, I mean, you're there for your team. You'll go down with the ship. You know, you give everything to the team. And I believe that is the biggest mistake that we're doing as civilians, is that we're identifying with teams and we're not listening to each other anymore. So I feel that if we're going to have a two-party system, you know, we're only going to have two-party. The only way that works is for the voters to be a third party. Not to mean that we have an actual third-party candidate, because that's never going to happen. Look at all the independents, the Green Party, these other parties. When I went to go vote, I saw a whole bunch of people I had never even heard of, but that's these other parties. And when you look at the votes that they got, a third-party candidate is never going to win. But third-party voters will make America win. Because if you're honest with yourself and if you're really into politics, right, I feel that if you take all the issues, there are going to be at least one or two that don't align with the two-party system, right? Because the way that Democrats and Republicans are like, they can't agree on anything with each other, you know? Like you can't, like, it's like we have to be opposed to each other in every little thing because I'm either a Democrat or Republican, and I don't want to give in because it's going to look like, well, I'm weak. And what I believe the solution to that is a majority base independent voters. Because again, most Americans aren't on the fringe, right? Like, your extreme left and your extreme right are the minorities, even though they're very loud minorities. And we think that they're like, you know, actually like bigger than what they are. They're not. I think the majority is right in the middle with mixed beliefs, right? But it's like we're given that we have to pick a team. And I don't believe that's the case. I think that the team that we should pick is independent, individualism, having our own sense of belief. Because I think that's just the reality. Reality is that most people are center. Maybe some are center left, maybe some are center right, but most of us are right here. We're right here, right? And what this, in my opinion, allows us to do is to keep these candidates honest with what Americans really care about, right? I think one thing I learned from this election is that you had what Americans really cared about, and then each party, both were guilty, had certain topics that they would feel like that they would bring up because they felt that Americans cared about those topics, and they kept putting it in our face. And it's like when they went back and did exit polling, it's like, hey, these were the things that Americans really cared about. These things that y'all were talking about were not in what we cared, you know? So if we all identified as independent, and we were all honest with what we really cared about on one side, and on the other side, it would force the parties to be here, right? And if your vote is actually up for grabs, then these parties are going to be forced to the center, and then the best ideas win, right? So in this last election, we had Kamala and we had Trump, and I am a true independent. Like, I watched everything from both sides, almost every speech, and therefore I knew when Donald Trump was saying things about Kamala, what he was lying about. Because I heard her. When I heard things from Kamala talking about Trump, I knew what she was lying about, because they both lied. Right? Like again, I am an independent. I am in the center. They both lied. But at that point I knew who was telling what lie, because I had seen every speech. I had seen every interview. I actually looked into the positions of these people, their interviews, what they had said, what they did, and all that stuff. And I feel like that's what we need. We need independent voters. We need you to jump off of the bandwagon of Republican and Democrat, because again, the left of before and the right of before is not the right and the left of today. But that means if you've been a Democrat for the last however many years, do you really believe everything the Democrats have been changed? Let's say if you've been 20 years, it's 20 years when you became a Democrat, and 20 years now. Are you saying you agree with everything they're talking about? And with Republicans, I mean, the Republicans you have now are completely different because of this whole MAGA movement, right? So it's you have Republicans of the George Bush era, right? And the MAGA Republicans and the other Republicans, right? Because not every Republican is MAGA. And that's completely different from what it was before, right? So it's but if we're playing teams, it's how can you have that? How can you have, how can you really just stay with a party and say, yeah, my ideals, they just so happen to go where I believed? I don't believe that to be true. I believe that every voter should be independent. If you lean Republican, then let them win your vote every single time. Go and watch every speech from the left. What are they fighting for? What are they saying? Why are they fighting for that, right? Because what I notice with a lot of things, and this is what's so hard about watching today's politics, is that we throw around Nazi, communist, socialist, fascist, all these things. We just throw them around as insults versus really seeing where somebody's coming from. Because most arguments that I'm realizing from political parties is this: one side sees a problem, right? And they have their way of fixing this problem, and they believe that it'll help the most people to do that. And the other side will look at the same problem, and they will have maybe a different solution because they believe that that would solve the problem. But both people believe that the problem would be solved in their way. And the reason they want to solve the problem is because they both want a better world, right and left. And so as an independent voter, I empathize with that. But then what I do is I have to go get myself educated on the thing. So the economy was a big thing. So I transitioned from people sales to business sales, right? And when I transitioned, I didn't go to college. So I went to the library and I bought an economics book and I read it. And it was like an economics for dummy type situation. It wasn't like some, college course economics book, because I wouldn't have understood it. It was a dumbed down version of economics, and I read it, but it allowed me to like learn a little bit more, right? So when the economy is the topic, right, and you have this person giving this solution and this person giving this solution, I at least have a base understanding, a very minimal understanding of economics, where I can be like, well, that kind of doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense. You're using this because it sounds good, versus this is actually what's going to fix the problem, according to my understanding. Because again, my vote is given with the best faith possible, that with my understanding, I think that this is going to benefit me. And by benefiting me, it'll benefit people like me. And I'm part of a class, right? I'm middle class. And if I feel it benefits me, then it'll benefit the people in my class, But that's the important thing, right? Is that you're an independent. You hear what the problem is. You hear how people will fix it. And you realize, I'm not smart enough to say that this is actually going to fix it and this is going to fix it. Because you're not. You're not smart enough. So what do? You go to the library that's free and you read a book, or you go on YouTube and you watch a video on the subject, and you watch the left-leaning sides of it, and you watch the right-leaning sides of it, and you use your common sense. Not your, common sense. What is the best thing for America, for people, And that is what I feel the power of the independent voter is. Because here's the thing. We know what extreme right is, right? Racism, right? Misogyny, we know what that is, far right. I think now we're starting to get to the point where we're realizing what extreme left is, right? And I'm not going to get into that because I think those topics are still controversial, but we're starting to form a picture of what extreme left is, right? And so we know the extremes. What we need to know now is, how are we going to get in these people, these parties, to come back here about the stuff that really matters? Because these extremes are very much the minority in our country. I think there's a lot less racist people than some people make out to be. And as a Mexican, I feel like I have some right of saying that, because I live every day as a Latino, as a Hispanic person. So I know how many days I go around and encounter a racist person, right? So I think that, yes, there are a lot of racist people, but I think that they're the minority. Again, with people that identify with the far left, I think those people are in the minority, And what we need the parties to do is to actually look at what independent voters really care about, the votes that are up for grabs, and make them address those issues, make them address them, right? Because imagine if you had candidates that overlapped. Right now it feels like we have candidates that are like left and right, right? But if I realize, because what I realize is, when I say I lean right, it doesn't mean that I'm all right. No, there are a lot of issues that I fall along the left side. It's just less than on the right side. Just like when I was younger, there were more issues that I identified on the left side, but I never truly identified as a Democrat. And there was some things on the right that I was like, oh, I kind of would like these things, So imagine if we had candidates that overlapped. They're like, hey, this we agree on. You're going to get basically the same person on these things. These are the things that I feel are a little bit better. I feel like that would be awesome. That would be awesome, because we would have real talks of why we would fix certain things, right? And imagine if our candidates were actually even more close, right? Then we would just pick the candidate that we felt the most about, the one we liked the most, because we knew that they would be able to do what what we want them to do. There is one group of people that I absolutely hate and despise, and that's politicians. Because remember back when I was telling you that I had like that sales tactic, right? Like that I was like into sales and that I was like really aggressive and very manipulative. And I saw that as being ugly and got away from that. That's what these politicians are doing. If you learn psychology, if you learn the art of persuasion, if you learn where propaganda came from, who invented it, because again, we use these terms, but we don't look into like where they came from. And being a son of immigrants, there was a lot of things that I didn't understand why the country I lived in was where it was. Like, how did we get here? And I love history. So I watched a lot of history on why we got where we're at, right? And so that being said, we throw around things like propaganda and all this stuff just like it's a word and not like it's an actual subject that you can study, that you could go back and look when these things started happening. How propaganda, because remember, we came back from Kings and Queens where it was just like what they said happened. Like it was like nothing. But when the people became the governing force, or the people that were electing these officials, right, into then they had to convince us to give the vote, because it's like we're the ones that put them in power. So that's how propaganda became a thing, because now we need these people to believe what we need to believe, because I'm not just a king. I can't say, you know what, fuck that king over there, we're going to war with that motherfucker over there. You can't say that. You know, you have to convince these people to give us their kids to go to war, right? And so you look into these things, and I was able to identify them in these politicians. And so you have to remember the only downside about politics is that they don't have to be competent to get the job that they're in, right? I'm gonna make sure I'm recording. They don't apply, right? If you went out and got a job, no matter what the job is, right? Unless it's your first job and you're going to like almost like an entry-level type of position, right? Any job you're trying to get into that is going to pay you more and give you more power, you have to give them a resume. You have to interview. You have to show that you've got the skills to do the job, because in any job that you do, you have to do it, right? It's like nobody hires you to not do the job. But for the politicians are the only ones that don't have to do that. They don't have to be competent at their jobs. They just have to convince you to give them the promotion. They have to convince as many people as possible to go in and vote for them so that they can get that promotion. But that's about it. And then there's really nothing that you can look into that shows that they did a good job. And unfortunately, we pay attention more to the presidency and these federal elections more than our state elections, right? And we don't hold the state people accountable, which are the ones that affect us the most. But either way, you have people that don't earn the job, right? That went to school to learn political science, not competencies on how to be a project manager, how to organize a project, how to organize people, how to manage people, and how to move a project forward to actually getting something done, right? Regardless of how you see things, if you're left or right, a Democrat or Republican, right? If you vote for the guy who says, hey, I'm all for these type of rights or these type of things and these type of policies, if they're not good people person and they can't project manage and they can't do the things, guess what? It doesn't matter if you voted for the guy because you thought he was going to tell you everything. He didn't get the job done. And that's what I fucking hate about politicians. Like that's one thing. Like politicians, I freaking dislike them because they have no skills other than just socializing amongst each other and building little cliques, and I'll get behind you and I'll get behind you. And if you get behind me and you support me, I'll support you. And I know the people that'll back you. And you know what? You just got to say this and you just got to do this. And I'll get the money you need to out campaign people and get this job. And hey, the job only pays so much, but with all these other side deals that we're gonna become millionaires. You know, the salaries of all these politicians aren't the amounts of money that they end up being valued as people. They're what is it? They're what ends up becoming their income. You know, it's like they're all doing these, and they all do it. They all do it. Why do you think they fight for these jobs so much, right? Because at the end of the day, if you are able to become a congressman or a senator or something, then you could just come on TV. You had a job for life, you know? So politicians are gross, you know, they're not competent. And if they are, we should have an ability as people to see who the actual competent politicians are, who makes their citizens that they're responsible for lives better. And then that way we can promote them on such resumes. But I think politicians are so full of shit, you know, and they can't, like, politicians can't admit when they're wrong, right? Because it's all about the re-election, right? So I can't, as a politician, I win the terms unless I have the best of intentions, right? And for whatever reason, the thing I promised didn't happen, a certain right or this, and it'd be like, hey, look, guys, you know, it was my first thing. I wasn't able to put the people together. I wasn't able to hold them accountable to get the job done. I misspent these funds. I voted for the wrong thing. Hey, my bad, but I'm doing the best that I can. And what these last so many years have taught me, you know, hey, from how good I was in the beginning to how I ended up being later, you know what? I've gotten so much better. If you reelect me, I'm more knowledgeable. I'll be able to get the job done. I'll be able to do this. I'll be able to do that. But it's not like that. It's not like that. And that's the only thing I feel about America is that's what we're dealing with. It's very incompetent people, right? Just because you got a vote and America voted for you, it doesn't mean that when you put this man in a room with another man that's from another country, right, that man is not going to be able to like outwit our guy, right? Just because you could give a speech to a whole bunch of people, it does not mean that you could sit down one-on-one with somebody from China, Russia, wherever the place is, right, and hold your own in an actual conversation and be strong, right? It's like, I don't know, like just because, you know, we have people in America that are very shitty people that do very shitty things, and they think they're the shit just because like they have a gun, right? But as a person is shitty. And I feel like sometimes we send out those type of politicians. It's like America has the biggest gun in the world. And so it's like you just send out this shitty person who wants to just be seen as like, oh yeah, I come from America, you know, and all this stuff. So yeah, you know, we're the richest company. We'll spin here. We'll do this. We'll do that. You know, we'll do like, and it's like not America first. And I just think that one thing that's encouraging about this day and age is that people want to put America first, regardless if that's, you know, identified left or right. It's like the fight is about how we can make America better, and that's the best thing out of everything. Because I'm just first generation, right? But it's like I'm not going anywhere. All my kids were born here, right? Like I'm not going back to Mexico. You know, like I wasn't raised there. I was raised here. I'm proud of it, and I love my family that's still over there, right? And I don't see them as less than me or not, but I also understand that there are tougher people than I am. I'm a wussy. You know, life in America is easier, and it shows why so many people are trying to come over here, you know? And so why would I take my kids to something where I know life is going to be harder? And my family that's over back in Mexico, they're stronger than me. You know, they're strong people. You know, they deal with things that I haven't had to deal with. So that being said, it's like, you know, I know that I'm not going to go back. So my only option is to make America as best as I can make it, you know? And the only way I can do that is with my vote. And I really hope that people tend to identify as independent more, especially after this election, that the independent party which I don't think should ever have a candidate. We can have this two-party system, but the party that is independent should just be of the people, you know, because there shouldn't be a leader. We shouldn't identify. Because I think an independent party should be a group of a whole bunch of people that don't agree on everything, you know, like that's what I feel. That's what I feel. You know, even if you are what somebody would identify as a full Democrat, I still think that at first you should always identify as a independent, so that you can at least revisit those ideas and be like, okay, there's like, you know what, this is still the party that identifies with my values mostly, you know. So that's my 2 cents on this election. I mean, it was a crazy election. It was, you know, crazy candidates that were a part of it. But I mean, it just is what it is, right? I don't know if politics will ever be as exciting as it has been these last few years. You know, before you had the likes of Donald Trump, I don't know if people were really into politics like that. I mean, I've been into politics again since 2006 when I graduated, and it was just kind of something that I was into. There wasn't a lot of people that were into it the same way that I was. I mean, obviously you do have people that are into politics. I don't make it seem like it was niche, but I'm just saying, like, the people my age, you know, like I do think there's a lot more young people into politics now. But unfortunately, you know, I do think that there's manipulation tactics that have been used on both sides. I'm not taking one side or the other. And the only way to combat that is with a strong independent party that looks into the issue, that becomes educated, that gives both candidates a chance to win their vote. And then based on that information, gives their vote based on what their common sense tells them is the best thing to do. But that's my 2 cents on the election. Outside of that, I mean, I don't know. It was my son's birthday, Sonny. So, you know, he's about 5, and he was actually born on election day. So on the 5th, while we're, you know, trying to figure out who the new president is, we were, you know, celebrating with my son. And yeah. But guys, I mean, that's pretty much all I have, you know, just the Kpop stuff and this. And I think I'm going to start going live. Maybe my shows might start being live. I got to look into that instead of doing these, just like kind of looking into being more live. And I'm going to draw more interviews. Like I said, I have a big interview that's happening more towards the end of the month. So that's going to come out. I have some guys that I'm trying to get in the books, and it's going to be all different types of artists. Unfortunately, I'm not big enough to interview any K-pop artists, and we're really far away from Korea. So, but what I'm hoping is to kind of get the interviews from amateur bands and just put out their stuff, you know, really get the stories of the people that haven't gotten fame yet. But don't get me wrong, if any well-known artists ever want to get interviewed by me, that would be badass. And so I'll do that. I'm going to be dropping different documentaries on different topics, mostly bands, music, art, just different things that interest me. Like, that's the only thing that I'm going to promise, is that it's going to be interesting to me, because I have to do it so that I can stay into it, right? And hopefully you guys like it, because I don't know, I've never done it, but I wanted to do it, and I'm going to do it. So hopefully it all works out. Guys, I appreciate y'all being here. I hope that you guys support me in my endeavors. I hope you guys like this solo podcast. It is hard to do things solo, so that's why I was thinking live, because that way I can interact with you guys. But if you guys like some of these, let me know in the comments, and I'll just continue doing them too. So I just want to, you know, do whatever you guys like, whatever you guys think is going to be popping and doing and cool or whatever. I'm going to do that. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all.
Peace.